This next session will bring our focus a little broader. The first session gave us a great introduction to West African water diplomacy, some of the major concerns they're facing, and key strategies to address these challenges. In this panel, we're going to take one step further back and think about African water diplomacy experience, expertise, and practice. And we have an amazing panel for you, facilitated by Maria Amakali, who is another fantastic leader of the Women in Water Diplomacy Network from our council. And I will turn it over to you, dearest. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and welcome everybody back from lunch. I am very happy that we all enjoyed the great Senegalese food. For those people who are not from Senegal, I do the same. This is session number 2, which is going to look at water diplomacy for peace and security with African focus. As Elizabeth mentioned, my name is Maria Amakali. I am heading the Department of Water Affairs in Namibia. I have been doing water cooperation for, let me say, since 2007, when I joined the River Basin Commission meetings, as we all had transboundary rivers, all had perennial rivers with our neighbors. As such, we have to make sure that water cooperation is key to our everyday activities. And as we realize, water diplomacy in Africa is not just a technical or sector-specific discussion. It has become a central to peace and security issue. And across the continent, climate change, rapid population growth, and uneven development are intensifying the pressure on shared water resources. At the same time, Africa offers some of the world's most instructive examples of how water can function as a source of conflict, but not only as a source of conflict, but as a powerful platform for dialogue. I think we have the most river basin or shared rivers in the world, if I'm not wrong. As such, today's session, as has been alluded to, is to examine water diplomacy as a tool for peace and security. And we are going to draw from African experience, from transboundary basin, regional institution, and global cooperation, as we will see in the representation of our panel. We will explore what is working, where the gaps remain, and how Africa's lesson can meaningfully inform the global and international processes, particularly as we prepare for the UN Water Conference 2026 and under the broader dialogue of water for cooperation. We would also like to see how inclusive, gender responsive, and institutionally robust approaches to water diplomacy can help prevent conflict, manage climate risk, and strengthen regional stability. The panelists will be invited to reflect not only on the policy and frameworks, but also on practice. What has actually made the difference in ground, plans, the challenges, etc. And we are privileged today to have a panel that will be bringing perspective from the basin, from the continent, and the global level. And I would like to hear also how they see these challenges. I think the ambassador from Finland was talking about declining multilateralism. How is this going to be addressed? And what does it mean to the future cooperation over the shared waters? Allow me at this chance to introduce you to the panel. Let me start from my right, my left. And it's Mr. Phera Ramoeli. I've known him also for the longest time. He's a executive secretary of OKACOM, or Okavango River Basin Commission, what we call as OKACOM. And he has been there since October 2018, but he has been serving as a program officer in the Directorate of Infrastructure and Services Water Division of the SADC Secretariat. So he has a good overview of the SADC River Basin Organization, but also being part of the AMBO. And he has been responsible for coordinating and facilitating implementation of the SADC program action in water. So with his 20 years of experience, we expect that he will give us some insights. Let me also then introduce Dr. Hwirin Kim from World Meteorological Organization. She's currently, thank you, she's a head of the Hydrological and Water Resources Division since 2019. This division supports the enhancement of members' hydrological and water resources services by coordinating diverse projects and programs such as the Associated Program on Floods Management, the Flash Floods Guidance System with a global coverage, the WMO Community of Practice on Flood Forecasting and Early Warning, and other activities related to the hydrologic forecasting and water resources assessment and management. In view of climate change, we are hoping that you'll be giving us way insights. Let me invite, I'm sure you don't see in one of our panel members is Dr. Florence Grace Adogo from Uganda. Until yesterday, she was the president of AMBO, or Africa Network of Basin. And now she's advisor to the Nile Basin Initiative Executive Director, having served as the Executive Director of the MBI through 2025. She's an accomplished water and environment resources management professional with experience of over 37 years in the sector. Welcome, Doctor. And then let me turn back to another of our panel members. I hope you are able to identify who's who as I read them out. The next panel member I have is Mr. Nelson Gomonda from Malawi. He is, or Nigeria. He's a director of program at the AMCOW, or Africa Ministers Council on Water Secretariat. The president was just here this morning. We appreciate where he provides strategic leadership to the program directorate and support the executive secretary in delivering the AMCOW's overall mandate. He also brings with him experience in the development, including 15 years focus on water and sanitation at national, regional, and continental level. He will give us an overall overview of the experience from the continent as a whole. Last but not least, we have another sister. It's Ms. Sindy Mthimkhulu from Eswatini. She is a distinguished water practitioner with over 24 years experience in transboundary water governance and integrated water resources management. She is the executive secretary of the Incomati and Maputo Watercourse Commission, or AMCOW. And she, we are very proud from the Southern Africa, is the first female to occupy the position of the executive secretary. So you can give her a hand. And in her role, she leads regional efforts to ensure water security across the 3 countries of Eswatini, South Africa, and Mozambique. So let's give a hand of all the panel members. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the addressing of some of the issues. I want to start already with a round of questions with Phera as ES of OKACOM, and you've been at the helm of SADC, Water Secretariat, Water, for a long time. My question for you is, where do you see water insecurity posing the greatest peace and security risk in Africa basins today? Be free to specify Southern Africa Basin if you must. And how can diplomacy mitigate these risks?
Thank you very much, Madam Facilitator, Maria. Indeed, the question talks to a very important element that preoccupies all of us in terms of the security or insecurity of water there too. Africa, as we all know, is struggled with shared watercourses, with shared river basin, lake, and even aquifers. This becomes the point of management and dependence in respect of water and the needs of the people that needs to use this resource. Now, insecurity obviously will depend on a number of factors. One, it can be as a result of lack of access. It could be as a result of lack of information and data and available knowledge of the resource that we are managing. In that case, the African continent, obviously we know that, and that's not only the African continent, water occurs there's a lot of variability of water occurrence, both in terms of time and space, and therefore this poses a lot of challenges in respect of security and peace if not properly managed. Fortunately, I think one can say that in Africa, in terms of institutional framework, we now have a continental body which is charged with responsibilities for managing water resources, AMCOW, with a specific organization that deals with transboundary water management, which is an arm of AMCOW, ANBO. Now, all these institutional frameworks, including the requisite legal instruments that have been enacted by the various regions of Africa, makes it impossible to be preemptive and not wait for when the trouble comes in terms of water insecurity that will then bring conflict because of the need for countries to now get what they need to get for their own needs. Now, let me just focus on Southern Africa. In Southern Africa, we have 15 shared watercourses that's within SADC. And these river basins, fortunately, there was an effort within the Southern African sub-region where cooperation was already engendered within the Economic Commission or Economic Community, SADC, where a treaty that was signed by the then 12 countries was also providing for a process where a protocol that governs management of water resources in terms of the protocol on shared watercourses was also enacted by the states. This provides for establishment of river basin organizations, which then ensures that instead of reaching a situation where countries will unilaterally utilize the available resources for their own good, there's a platform that is put in place for countries to work together to plan and have the agreement on how to use their various resources. Now, the question of where the challenges are in terms of possible peace and security challenges, I think for the region where we come from, the Southern Africa, we are lucky in the sense that we have been able to put requisite instruments in place to ensure that that kind of challenges, if and when they would come, would have been preemptive in making sure that they are not affecting the insecurity. But that doesn't rule out the fact that if and as a result of the current challenges of population growth, of increased demand, there is possibilities that will ultimately reach a stage where insecurity is an issue we have to consider. But because of the fact that diplomacy was applied in terms of negotiations for utilization of the resources that is shared between the states, we are in a situation where some of those problems may not actually come to pass and get us into problems. For Southern Africa, or for most of our region, water is seen as an instrument for cooperation as opposed to an instrument for possible conflict. And that in itself ensures that we are putting everything in place to ensure that we are not going to be finding ourselves in a situation where we are facing serious challenges of insecurity, which may lead to peace. But we have to be vigilant. We have to be careful because that situation may change as development increases, as demands for the same resource, which we know is not infinite, it's actually finite. We have to be able to manage that resource properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. Now, you spoke about the existing of institutions that can preempt these issues. I would like to go to Sindy. As a executive secretary for one of the key commission, what tangible difference does the meaningful participation of women and diverse actors make in water diplomacy outcomes related to peace and security?
Thank you very much for the question, Madam Facilitator. I will start by trying to explain meaningful participation as well as diversity. We are talking of participation that is real and effective, not just tokenism. And also we are fundamentally looking at diverse actors being civil society, indigenous groups, and local communities. In the context of transboundary water management, that is more than fairness. It has to be effected to change the durability and the quality of the discussions as well as the trust levels. So in transboundary context, we are emphasizing inclusivity to shift the focus so that we do not just share the pie, like how much is there and you get an equal part, but we want to go to the extent of sharing the benefits from the little available water resources there. So the benefits of having an inclusive approach include more successful and more holistic provisions, especially when you include women in these discussions. Women have a tendency of prioritizing the social needs and the community level issues. And those ones ensure that you can reach an agreement that address the root cause of the issues as opposed to the high level issues of national governments who are more like looking for a stake. When we are looking at addressing needs, then you are able to ensure that you are assisting people based on what really affects them as opposed to political positions. And those political positions are usually rigid. But if you are basing your agreements on the needs, you stand a better chance. When you bring diverse groups, then you bring more knowledge to the table, and that improves the on the ground effectiveness of the decisions that you take. We always say women are the managers of water, from community level to agriculture and small scale use. We are involved, but in a transboundary context, we find that we are not really there. So it is important to be inclusive and include those people so that we are able to bring more of the knowledge that the engineering may lack sometimes. The other point is that diverse actors provide alternative channels of communication when the diplomatic channels may fail. For example, when you are bringing people who know each other at a community level, they forge relationships that are stronger than the political elements of territorial issues. So they talk more from a premise of understanding each other than being too rigid. And then in conflict resolution, that is a very good element when you ensure that people are able to work together to reduce conflict and promote the diplomacy and benefit sharing from available water resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think throughout the discussion, I'm hearing that there's, with the issue of climate change, sometimes we have the information, sometimes we have the resources. And that's the resources we are all fighting for or wanting to use. Everybody looking for their own. And I want to ask Dr. Kim, as the head of the Hydrological and Water Resource Division at WMO, how does the WMO's mandate translate into tangible outcome for African country, particularly in strengthening climate services, early warning systems, and water-related resilience?
Thank you for the question, Maria. First of all, I changed it. I have two hats. One is the Chief of Hydrological Modeling and Forecasting. Another one is the Head of Associate Program of Flood Management in WMO. As you mentioned, the first female executive we have here as Sindy, I'm the first female chief for hydrology in WMO history. Thank you. With the name of the WMO years, and also including previous WMO, which called IMO, it's more than 153. We didn't have a chief, female chief in hydrology, so I would be proud of how it has been changed, the female empowerment, gender empowerment, that I'm happy to show as one of the evidence that things have been changing. So it doesn't mean that we don't like male experts, but should have equal balance. As a specialized UN agency for climate, weather, and water, WMO has been working a lot, supporting activity global, regional, national, basin, transboundary basin, continental scale. And we served 193 member states. I believe all of you are part of our WMO communities. In our mandate, strengthening hydrological and meteorological services, as Maria mentioned, improving early warning system, enhancing water-related resilience. Here today, as requested, I will only focus on Africa regions, not Asia, not Caribbean, not South America. So first of all, we're strengthening our regional and sub-regional climate centers. Why are we doing this? We want to make members support members, not always a member waiting for the external partners, external donors, or external experts, but they should strengthen their capacity within Africa, then they can support other members as well. That's what we try to do. So we do have regional climate centers. Also in the continental level, WMO with the ACMED, which called African Center of Meteorological Application for Development in Niger. And we are also supporting twinning program with the sub-regional centers, AGRIMED in West Africa, as well as CAPCCA in Central Africa. We're trying to support all the regions in Africa. And we also strengthen regional specialized meteorological center. Now we have 4 regional special meteorological center in Africa, one in Dakar here. We do have a Dakar Regional Center, Pretoria in South Africa, we have Dar es Salaam and Nairobi. Now currently we're trying to make another fixed regional center in Yaoundé. Those will encourage the regional centers supporting other national center, national countries, and also public communication. Today, I need to mention about cruise initiative, which is climate risk and early warning system. And this is a very flagship example of multilateral cooperation. This morning, we heard a lot from the Excellency that she mentioned about how it's important to have a multilateral cooperation. And WWD's cruise initiative, which is launched in 2015, 11 years ago, to strengthen climate risk and early warning system globally, focus on LCD and SIDS, Small Island Developed Country, including Africa. Especially in the impact that I want to mention, 36 multi-year projects that we had, and $107 million we received so far. And we supported 75 ADC and Cs, including Africa countries. Because I'm hydrologist, I like to put in numbers to show people how it is big number. Approximately 396 million people in 45 countries, Africa including 39 countries. So you can imagine majority support that we did in Africa, gain access to improve forecast and early warning services since 2017. And I have to say special thanks to our tribal members who contribute, providing significant fund that cruise initiative is possibly happen. Australia, Canada, especially Finland, who is also supporting today's symposium, I have to mention it, and France, Germany. I met one of the German colleagues at the plane when we came here. So I have to say thanks to Germany as well as GIZ, I believe, supported today's symposium. I want to mention the special thanks to them. Also, Luxembourg, Monaco, Switzerland, and United Kingdom have been contributed significant fund that we can continue to work over almost 10 years. And I want to mention some of other good examples like Volta Basin project that we got funding from Adaptation Fund. Focus on the Volta Basin with 6 countries. We supported flood and drought, forecasting and management. Now with that project, the 6 countries are delivering real-time and also forecasting result to support in their countries together with the region. And we made a strong collaboration among the country for the transboundary river basin. That became one of very successful projects recognized by Adaptation Fund. They even put in the media what a great successful story that we made together. So now Volta Basin Phase 2 project is under development, and I'm pretty much 99% that we will get another Phase 2 project funding from Adaptation Fund. And also, as Maria mentioned earlier, when she explained my story, and then there was first blood guidance system, which WMO has been implemented in 72 countries, including South Africa region and also West Africa region. Now we have Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Mali in cooperation with our business center, which I mentioned, Dakar, and agreement in Niger, that we closely working together to support those countries. Not only existing or past project, we also developing new projects, especially for the Lake Chad Basin, which is funded by Adaptation Fund again. And now the project group, we hiring project manager recruitment to support this project, and we already got agreement with Adaptation Fund. So WMO has been continued to work and supporting our members with our technical support, but also multiple projects together. But I need to mention about challenge and bottleneck. This is my last, sorry, Maria. Even though we have very good partners, donors, supporters, but still many challenges remain that I want to highlight today. One is very limited access to observed data, even though we do have many great global scale data products supported by multiple great partners. Still, local data is very critical. The accuracy is very critical for making reliable forecasting result and running. So we really need to see how we can overcome the challenge. The second one, even though project installed so many stations, so many observations in the local, but still there's an issue with the vandalism of the infrastructure. It has been broken. No more maintenance, no more support. So we cannot get the data, we cannot get the information. And human resources constraints. Many projects, we cannot hire government staff directly or institutional colleagues directly. So it is important. Many national meteorological hydrological services, they are based on the expert, based on trained person that is needed to support, and also country ownership and sustainability. At the very beginning of the project, everybody becomes so enthusiastic, but almost the end of a project, it can be gone. Nobody maintain and support. So very strong national engagement is essential for the long-term operationalization and also supporting our people from the flood, drought, any kind of water-related or climate-related hazard. National engagement, ownership, sustainability are critical. The last but not the least, financially and institutional support is needed. We just keep depending on the donors supported project. We limited our term content of the system. So it'd be great if we can really focus on those challenging and trying to overcome it. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kim, from that WMO perspective. And I see a lot of projects that is happening. I hope we are all aware as our countries are being mentioned also. And then you mentioned about the challenges, data capacity. And we are talking about peace, security, data sharing. I would like to ask Dr. Adongo. In many transboundary basins, where we also understand what is happening at other contexts, data does exist, but it's not shared. So from your experience, what is the key practical or institutional barrier that prevent data from becoming a shared public good? And how does this undermine trust and cooperation?
Thank you very much for that question. From my experience, the core barrier is the politicization of data, where information is treated as a strategic asset which is linked to sovereignty, power, and negotiation leverage, rather than a shared public good. This is further reinforced by the fact that there is weak or non-binding data sharing mandates, but also there are irregularities and asymmetric kind of capacities. Some countries within the basin are better in terms of capacity than the other. So it brings in a fear from other countries to share their data, but also the inconsistency and the fear that data could be misinterpreted are some of the key things that I see. And the way the data will be used. Because in the transboundary context, the issue of data sharing is extremely important in building trust and confidence and also enhancing cooperation. So with that kind of background, I always find that it is extremely difficult for countries to share data. However, as you are aware, there's a very clear provision, Article 9 of the UN Water Convention on Non-Navigable Uses, which many countries actually prescribe to, provides for exchange of data, especially within the transboundary context. But because of these barriers, it's not being followed. And therefore, when data is withheld, it shifts cooperation from evidence-based dialogue to more perception-based negotiations. And it also contributes to eroding trust it delays joint investments because we are talking about shared resources, transboundary, cross-border, where you need data from all the countries in order to come out with the investments. As you are aware, one of the good ways of enhancing trust, confidence, and cooperation is through joint investments, and where benefit from the joint investment is shared. It brings the countries together. It also weakens our systems, which my sisters just talked about. If you were to look at a network, a transboundary network that would provide early warning systems, then you need to have stations all over in the countries so that you can have a model that can help to inform the different countries at different levels. But if that is not shared, then this is not possible. It therefore increases the risks from extreme events like floods, droughts, and even conflicts. So I would say that without shared data, there is no really shared reality. And it really hampers the process of cooperation, investments, and also it does not bring the reality in terms of scientific and other information that can inform decisions and sustain cooperation. So I think this is what I can say on that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm hearing some challenges. We are talking about water diplomacy for peace and security. Yet, as country, we are still sometimes reluctant to share the information with each other, although we know that we need this information for us to cooperate better. And I want now to look at it from the African continent point of view. And I'm now looking at Nelson, who is sitting in AMCOW Secretariat. The Africa Water Vision and Policy will be launched next month. Now, just also listening from what has been said, looking at the water diplomacy, looking at the also just gender inclusivity. What do we need to do to ensure gender equity, social inclusion, and grassroots agency in the water governance and diplomacy?
Thank you, moderator, for that question. And indeed, you're right that Africa has just adopted an Africa Water Vision 2063 and policy. And in this vision, we are looking at really water secure Africa with the self-sanitation for all as the vision statement. I should say the development of this vision document was really a work of different stakeholders and partners, but more importantly, we benefited quite a lot from the leadership of Senegal, our host, which is also the current president of AMCOW. And I know that even as we sit here, we have our Technical Advisory Committee Chair, Dr. Bakary Fati, who convened, I don't know how many meetings, maybe 3 or so meetings. Dr. Bakary Fati is at the back there, so it deserves all our appreciation for really making sure that the member states are able to provide their input, which is more important. Just quickly to say that this vision and policy has about 8 statements. I know most of us haven't seen it. But very shortly we'll be, I think, sharing it as we launch at the African Union Commission. But the vision statements are looking at the first one, issues of wash, the second one, issues of water for prosperity, here looking at issues for sustainable water for economies, of course. The third looks at issues of blue economy, looking at from the source to the sea aspects of water. The fourth one looks at issues of basin as instruments of unity. And then we are looking at also aspects of governance in vision statement number 5, and then resilience, dealing with issues of climate change. And of course, there is innovation and skills. as vision statement number 7 and number 8, of course, looking at issues of water intelligence. So basically, that's what summarizes maybe the vision, I can say. And we are even grateful to the basin organizations and most of them on the table here, and also our partners, including the EU, BMZ, through GIZ. We appreciate the support. Now, when you come to look at the aspects you've mentioned in the context of the new vision, what we need to do to ensure gender equity. Basically, in this particular vision, we are maybe identifying about 4 specific areas that we need to do. Number 1, we need to push for inclusive engagement. And I think on this one, I don't need to unpack because my sister Sindy unpacked that already. And it's quite important to ensure that major water decisions are really undertaken in a manner that involves and includes all the key stakeholders, and also making sure that we have gender balanced stakeholder engagement. So that's quite key. Number 2 is making sure that we work together to remove entrenched barriers. And I think we have quite a lot of barriers that sometimes deny some sections of our society from participating and contributing to decisions sometimes. So that's something that we have to deal with. But as we also remove these barriers, we have to work towards the reveraging we can say the demographic divides. We know that Africa, of course, has the biggest population of youth, about 60 to 70% in some countries as well. So we may have to work towards how do we leverage on that opportunity. Number 3 is basically looking at leveraging cultural diversity, and Cindy again unpacked this point very well. She highlighted the importance of having different groups, including the indigenous, because yes, they are research institutions, they are all experts, but sometimes we lack even knowledge from other groups, be it community or even indigenous groups as well. And as you mentioned, if we bring everybody on the table, we definitely would have the solutions that we need. Number 4, one other key issue is making sure that we advance gender equality and social inclusion as something that is fully institutionalized in the way we are doing business on the continent across all levels. So whether it's in our countries, whether in our basin institutions, whether in our regional economic communities, and even at the continental level, we make sure that we have gender equality and social inclusion as a standard for water governance across Africa, with inclusive engagement, of course, equitable representation, and of course, emphasizing on accountability, which is quite key as we work towards looking at what different institutions are doing. So that's basically what we are looking at when we look at the issues of making sure that we have inclusion, especially at the grassroots level, and dealing with issues of governance and diplomacy in this particular new vision and policy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, panel members. You spoke of the enabling environment, either at institutional level, regional level, at policy level, making sure that there is enough information to allow the water diplomacy to actually play its part. Now, I'm thinking maybe somebody in the audience says something that they felt has not been said. I'm only giving an opportunity to one person. Who would want? I see a hand there. Okay, two, and they can be questions or inputs. Then I'll give you another round after.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello. Okay, great. Hello, my name is Aogay. I'm from the Young Water and Sanitation Professionals in Senegal. My question is for Doctor, I forgot the name, but the one who was talking about lack of data sharing. So as a PhD student in climate change issues in the Senegal River Basin, I'm facing this problem. So I'm asking at your level, what are the strategies developed to facilitate this data sharing between all countries without feeling threatened or insecure? Thank you.
I'm just going to allow one more from the end, and then I'll come around the second round.
À tous, merci beaucoup de m'avoir donné cette opportunité de remercier d'abord Elisabeth pour l'invitation. Et donc, je devais être là avec vous depuis ce matin, mais on a eu un conflit d'agenda qui ne m'a pas permis d'être là. À ces remerciements associés ici, tous les membres présents dans cette salle, mais permettez-moi tout particulièrement de remercier aussi mes proches collaborateurs, tels que Sonia, elle est là, donc secrétariat à la Convention. Il y a Maria également qui est facilitatrice de ce panel, qui est voilà, donc, une collègue à moi dans le bureau, et aussi TAC. Et à ces remerciements associés également AMCOW, représenté ici par son autorité qui est Nelson, qui dirige actuellement le secrétariat de l'AMCOW. Et je l'encourage et je le félicite pour ce qu'il est en train d'abattre comme travail. Donc, autour de cette table-là, j'ai que des amis, et donc permettez-moi de ne pas tous citer, mais je m'adresserai à la représentante de l'OMM, Dr King, pour sa présentation. On sait que moi, je suis hydrologue de formation. Je suis aussi le conseil en hydrologie d'IPER du Sénégal aux côtés de l'OMM. Donc, pour votre exposé, donc, je voudrais juste faire un petit commentaire sur la prise en charge des préoccupations des services hydrologie en Afrique de l'Ouest particulièrement, mais aussi je pourrais l'étendre à toute l'Afrique, d'autant plus que je suis aussi le président du comité consultatif technique de l'AMCOW. Donc, je pourrais valablement parler au nom de tous les services hydrologiques de l'Afrique. En fait, on a constaté, et donc, j'avais, avant d'être directeur aujourd'hui de la gestion de la planification des ressources en eau du Sénégal, j'étais d'abord le chef de division hydrologie. Et j'ai fait une thèse de doctorat aussi en modélisation hydrologique. Donc, je suis mieux placé pour parler de ce sujet. Donc, au mot constat, pour moi-même, on le dit à des occasions de réunion, que les services hydrologiques sont les parents pauvres de la politique de l'OMM. Heureusement pour nous maintenant, l'OMM a pris conscience de ça et est en train de rectifier le tir. Parce que par le passé, nous devons bénéficier des bourses de formation, de renforcement de capacités périodiques, au même titre que les météorologues. Mais depuis un certain temps, on a abandonné les services hydro, si bien que les services météo sont devenus beaucoup plus puissants, beaucoup plus performants que les services hydrologiques. Et quand on parle de système d'alerte précoce, je crois que les phénomènes d'inondation et de débordement des cours d'eau ne doivent pas être sous-estimés. Je le dis parce que le Sénégal a vécu deux situations successives, l'année 2024, hivernage 2024 et hivernage 2025, un débordement du fleuve Sénégal qui n'a jamais été observé depuis la création du barrage en 1986. La crue de 2024, octobre 2024, avait dépassé la cote d'alerte de 1,66 m. La cote d'alerte est de 10 mètres. Le niveau atteint était de 11,66 m. Donc, ce qui a fait qu'on n'avait pas pu voilà, donc, mesurer cet impact-là à temps. Maintenant, si on avait vraiment un bon système d'alerte précoce, peut-être que l'événement n'allait pas nous surprendre comme c'était le cas. On n'a pas été surpris parce qu'on a un dispositif de suivi sur l'ensemble du cours d'eau. Donc, pour ne pas être très long, voilà donc ma préoccupation. Merci.
I am keeping to my promise. I will come back to the round two with the questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Fati. I'm thinking that Dr. Kim understood exactly what you are saying. I also saw a lot of numbers from hydrologist to another hydrologist. And of course, you are in a good relation as we move to the co-chairing of the themes, especially the one on under climate. And I also am happy to see the youth who are also in the room. I think that the whole issue about water diplomacy and women is also to include the youth. Now, Dr. Andongo, you can shortly give the answer to the young lady, and then Dr. Kim can just give some short intervention to what Dr. Fadi said.
Okay,
Dr.
thank you very much, and thank you so much for that question. Indeed, data sharing is a big challenge. Strategies that have been done. I wouldn't want to say strategies, I want to say the practice. because our biggest challenge has been in translating policies, principles into practice. At the Nile Basin Initiative, with the support from EU and BMZ, we have rehabilitated our regional hydrological stations and improved on the technology that uses real-time data capture and relays it to the countries as well as the Secretariat, which is the regional office. Now, most of the time, I think we demand data from countries. In other words, you want the countries to pull their data and give it to you. This one doesn't work. What the Nile Basin has done is to build capacity of the countries and establish the regional expert working group. At the first meeting, all countries came with their data and they were holding it to the chest. They didn't want to share because they were suspicious. But as we progressed, we are at a point where we are issuing a regional hydrological outlook for the Nile Basin. And we also have a 72-hour forecast on hydrology, how the water is flowing. And when countries received these products, they valued it. And as I talk now, all the 10 countries, every quarter, we issue hydrological outlook after the seasonal forecast in Nairobi. So I think, other than asking countries to give data, it's important to involve them in all the practice. And it also helped us to harmonize the capacity, because some countries don't have the peer-to-peer learning is now real. So to me, this one is successful. Every quarter, if you go to our website, we issue hydrological forecasting outlook and advisories. And we have already received a lot of appreciation. We are supporting hydropower generation. We are supporting cascade dam operations. We are supporting navigation. So they're beginning to feel that the data they provide has impact on their socioeconomic. So we need to translate data into products that are relevant to the countries. And in so doing, I think they will be able to continue providing. But as long as we collect data and put in the database, which is scientific and nobody understands, I think it is extremely difficult for us to get that. So yes, I think this is experience I can have now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, Dr. Kim, shortly, some intervention from...
Yeah, I can do very short, briefly. It's very pity to hear that you felt hydrological service has been weakening while meteorological service is stronger. That's really pity part, and I'm very sad to hear that, because I thought we have been working a lot to enhance, empower hydrological services in the country. That was my belief, but it's obvious that you don't feel it, that we should work more. As you may know, WMO, people sometimes do not recognize WMO as a hydrological specialized UN agency because of World Meteorological Organization. When I see in Africa, because I've been in Africa several times because of the project and other program, I saw they were so strongly engaged in UNESCO IHP, for example, international, now intergovernmental hydrological program, but they didn't join us in WMO workshop, meetings, or training because they thought it's only for the National Meteorological Service, which is not true. I'm the chief of hydrology, as I mentioned. So WMO with 193 members, we do have a permanent representative, PI, usually from Met Services, Director General. But we do have National Hydrological Advisor, who is the Director or Director General of National Hydrological Services. But I haven't seen many National Hydrological Advisors in the WMO Congress or WMO big meeting or governance meeting or even technical commissions. No, very few hydrological advisors or very few hydrological experts joining our governance bodies meeting or technical meeting, which is sad because we do have RA1, we call it RA1, Regional Association 1, as Africa as a number 1. We do have a 53 members. But among the 53 members, have you ever come to Geneva to join our Congress meeting? Did you make a big voice that WMO should support more hydrological services? No, I haven't heard many times. So that's why I'm encouraging members, write an official letter to our Secretary General. Come to our meeting and make your voice loud, noisy. People cannot annoy. People cannot avoid or forgotten. No one should left behind. And we do, because of the limited budget, I know countries do not have a budget for traveling all the time, the long distances, but we do have a regular RA1, which is Africa Hydrological Advisor Forum. You should join it. That's a regular virtual forum where we hear from members, where we're trying to collect. Training is ongoing. We still have many training, regular activity, also extra budgetary project. Training, we now develop hybrid mode, virtual mode. There are a lot of training, but nobody asked, we cannot continue. Last year, we had a training in Egypt, supporting national hydrological services. We continue to support our members, but maybe you didn't hear about it, or maybe you didn't have a chance to join there. We still have a fellowship program together with DEFT, IHE, another institution. We still have it. Please join us. We want to make stronger hydrological service. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Now, I'm thinking we are looking at the country. At the same time, we have these institutions or river basin institutions. And I'm looking at Phera. They are caucusing. This question is for you. Now, if we don't get it from the country, can we get it from the river basin organization and institution? So for example, Africa Water Agreements and Institution to adapt climate change, because I think you need to get from what the information you want from Dr. Kim is how should Africa Water Agreements and Institution adapt to climate variability, extremes and uncertainty to remain credible and stabilizing. How do we get these opportunities, if I may put it like that?
Well, thank you. As I indicated, one thing that we have managed to do in our various regions and basins is to enact these agreements. The agreements in themselves are as good as what they are in a paper. What is important is implementation of those agreements. I'll give an example. OKACOM is one of the basins which enacted the agreements 1994, even before the protocol on travel courses was enacted. We realized that there's a need to update it so that it's fit for purpose. So our agreement, and one of the things that was identified even then was that, as it was, issues of climate change, issues around the codification of real enforceable provisions were not there in the agreement. And climate change is one of those that was missing. Even the Nexus approaches that are now topical issues. So agreements have to be adapted to the situation on the ground, including being relevant to the issues that we have to address as various organizations managing water resources on behalf of states. Another issue, these agreements require subsidiary instruments. In our case, there's an issue that I think most people who know about transboundary water law and management, the principle of equitable and reasonable utilization, is an issue that needs to be the center of things, but it requires guidelines for implementation. Now, for OKACOM and I think for the SADC basins, we have developed guidelines to guide on interpretation of the issues of equitable resource utilization, particularly on planned measures. Now, these are practical activities that ensures that our agreements are adaptable and adaptive to the situation on the ground, and therefore that's what we definitely are going to be emphasizing. And I think most of our river basin organizations have had at one point or other review, revise, and amend the agreements in terms of trying to make sure that they are in line and in tandem with what is the situation on the ground now.
Thank you for that. Now I want to go to Sindy again, listening to what Phera just said. And I think what also leading to the question of the young lady over there, is this issue linked to asymmetries between states? You know, how can, maybe we can link it to diplomacy as well. How can water diplomacy better address power asymmetry between the states while ensuring equitable and mutual benefit outcomes? Are we holding the data for ourselves because I can, or what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you very much, Madam Facilitator. I think we all know that whoever has the data, the information, has the power. And to achieve equitable outcomes, we need to shift from the raw power mentality to shared institutional benefits and frameworks. We have to move from the hoarding knowledge and start sharing whatever we have. For example, we have to consider that we are managing water resources not for the sake of just the water resources, but we are managing water resources for the benefit of the people, or the communities, or the industries. Whoever needs the water, that's what we are managing the water for. As a result, we have to look at the trade-offs. We as member states should not stick to my water, my allocation, my quota, at the expense of the overall broad development. We have to look at nexus approaches. We've talked about it already, that we need to have energy security, food security, economic gains, as well as environmental sustainability from the same water resources. And that sometimes requires us to have an overall systems approach, where we are not trying to each one have a dam on their own territory because you are counting the number of dams. We have to look for the benefit of the system. Where is it most optimal to have what? So in the case of Southern Africa, in the Incomati and Maputo Watercourse Commission in Macomb, we have a number of instances where you have a shared infrastructure that is not located in one other country. You have Makuka Dam, for example, belonging to both South Africa and Eswatini, located entirely within Eswatini, but benefiting everyone. And you have that same dam meeting the demands for downstream Mozambique. So we need to be able to do that. And I go back to the international frameworks where we have a blanket under which we can all go under, because the one who has power, the one who has more resources, may try to bully the other one who doesn't have much. But if we have the UN conventions and the SADC protocols and the overall pronouncements that are compelling us to share, to notify, to cause no harm to each other, then everyone can always hide under those pronouncements and bring accountability to the other one. And lastly, I think what we are doing here in this water diplomacy network, it enables technical alliances. Sometimes governments may find challenges due to sovereignty, but technocrats may bridge that gap. And friends and people who know each other from the different places can relate even better. And you find that while it is a challenge to obtain certain information in the official route, we are able to get those and we are able to do. And lastly, I would emphasize multi-stakeholder platforms where you participate and you give diverse opportunities for different groups. In that way, everyone brings what they have. As long as you all have a common goal, then we will all have access to whatever is needed and we will all achieve what is required. I'll end there, facilitator. Thanks.
Thank you. So in other words, water cooperation to lead to peace and security needs to be institutionalized, needs to be funded, such needs to be engaged further at the multilateral platforms. I know I promised I have two questions, the lady there and there's one online.
Online.
Okay,
Can we take this question?
let's take that one.
I think it's
Okay.
nice for our online guests to feel part of our space. So there's a question from Tamara Ba. She says, how are climate-driven water scarcity, displacement, and governance vacuums intersecting with women's security, particularly where water is weaponized by state or non-state actors? So a very, very powerful question. Indeed, we'd love to hear some thoughts.
I'm looking at the panel members. Who wants to? Who wants to tackle that? Climate, I see Nelson.
Yeah, so actually it's a difficult question and maybe it's a question for all of us for sure. And I'm not necessarily responding directly, but I wanted to just emphasize, as it has been mentioned, because I think Dr. Phera has mentioned, Florence also, Dr. Florence has mentioned, we know that water is that one resource that has the capacity of dividing us permanently. And also we know from what we are learning now with the transboundary organization that it is also a resource that can bind us eternally together. But then the fact that we have most of our water resources shared on the continent, it's a huge opportunity, and there are quite a lot of lessons that we are getting from different corners as well, especially in the work of the different basin organizations. But related to that question, I think for us, we believe it's important that we have to push and make sure that we are respecting all the rights and the rights of others across different countries, but also across communities who are benefiting from this. And because if we don't, that's where now we end up having other people's rights being marginalized and undermined. And I think when we talk of women being in the intersection of those challenges, those are the questions that I think we have to deal with. So we have to really work so hard, remind ourselves to respect the rights of others in different contexts. That's quite key. But also, as Dr. Adongo has mentioned, we also need really to advance a little more into the flow of the information, and of course also transparency in terms of how those decisions are made. And sometimes people are disadvantaged because yes, they were excluded, but even if you did exclude them, what kind of mechanisms did you put in place to ensure that at least they understand and know the decisions that you have taken? And when you took the decisions, what kind of information did you consider so that others have also the capacity and opportunity to appreciate how did you arrive at the difficult decisions, if at all the decisions were difficult. So the information is quite key, but apart from using the information, we also have to go back and be a little bit more accountable and transparent with the decisions that we have taken. And I liked when we were having a conversation yesterday with Dr. Adongo, she mentioned that as much as sometimes member states fight over other issues and positions and protecting their own interests, but it's important for organizations that are bringing together member states or even like basin organization in this particular case to ensure that once they leave or we leave a specific space, we have shared the information. Yes, we were at the meeting for 3 days, 4 days, but these are the outcomes. And for us to arrive at these outcomes, we looked at these particular issues. So that's quite important in this particular context, so that different communities in different settings, they have at least an appreciation. So that's what maybe we need to work towards as well. But of course, we have to permanently work towards making sure that we are pushing for integration in our economic cooperation, integration in our social and ecological values as well. And at the same time, of course, making sure that we are pushing for that water governance that respects different groups as well, and making sure that we have all integrated in various spaces as well. I think that's what we might be thinking about or looking at when we deal with such kind of issue. Thank you so much.
I can't say anymore. I think you cover what I could have said. Now, they had one pending before I go to conclude, because otherwise I would encroach into your table discussion, but it's up to you. Let me get the sister from the Congo, and then I come to the lady with the nice buttons. Yeah. Unfortunately, she was pressing.
Good morning, everybody. Excusez-moi de parler en français parce que mon anglais n'est pas très fluide. Oui, je suis Dr Kenyi Doris. Je viens du Congo, de nationalité camerounaise. Donc, je suis chef de service prévention des pollutions et des risques à la Commission internationale du bassin Congo-Ubangi, Sanga, dont le siège se trouve à Kinshasa. Donc, avant de commencer, je voulais d'abord remercier infiniment Mary de la GIZ. C'est avant-hier qu'elle m'a parlé de ce forum parce que je suis venue dans le cadre de réseau africain dans le bassin. Donc, par la suite, j'ai donc contacté Mme Elisabeth qui m'a directement inscrit dans le groupe. Je vous remercie infiniment. Et ce que je voulais faire comme remarque, c'est qu'après la présentation de la cartographie des pays qui sont dans le réseau Network de ce matin, j'ai constaté que l'Afrique centrale était vraiment absente. Dans la partie Afrique centrale, il n'y avait aucun pays qui faisait partie de ce réseau. Et je pense que le bassin du Congo, ou bien notre organisation, la SICOS, dont je représente, est vraiment mieux placée pour pouvoir faire en sorte que les 10 pays membres du bassin du Congo puissent être impliqués dans ce réseau. Parce que le bassin du Congo compte, entre autres, le Cameroun, la Centrafrique, le Gabon, l'Angola, le Congo-Kinshasa, Congo-Brazzaville, le Cameroun, la Zambie et plein d'autres pays. Donc, c'est vraiment une opportunité pour la zone Afrique centrale de pouvoir intégrer ce réseau. Je pense que peut-être je me rapprocherai peut-être des organisateurs plus tard pour voir dans quelle mesure impliquer les pays de l'Afrique centrale dans le réseau de femmes diplomates du domaine de l'eau. Merci encore et bonne suite.
Thank you, the button lady, but I call myself the water governance lady, and my name is Lea. I have a question probably for Dr. Florence and Wilson, but I'm not completely sure. I think you both used two terms that always make me nervous, and that's the term evidence-based. Because if you make that a condition for being heard, for participation, for being taken serious, what kind of evidence are we talking about, from whom? Because so far, if you some of my academic colleagues here, they will tell you evidence-based is that academics did research. And then it stops, because then I think about practical experience, because for me that is very strong evidence. What about the knowledge of non-official academics And you talked about that indigenous and traditional knowledge. So if you talk evidence-based as a condition for participation, meaningful participation, I think we have to, at least with this group, be very clear on that. We say that. A second one is about inclusiveness, and it's a message that has to go into a contribution for the conference. If we say inclusive participation, then two of you, three of you, it's present. It's very nice, but it's not. It's very limited. But it's not about accountability, because if you tell stakeholders that they're only to monitor what somebody else is doing, then you limit their contributions very much. And last but not least, if you in every other document, you approach them as victims and not as actors in their own right, regardless of expertise, then you diminish their participation because you put them in one row. So what are we going to do about that? Then Dr. Kim is coming. I am going to shout your message from the rooftops. You are so right. If the UN agencies can't even get cooperation right and make sure that it's not their mandate that 20 years ago from the General Assembly or from their governing body, but say this is mine and I'm keeping it, and tell countries that they're the expert, then we keep it. And we have an organization, sir, they are trying their best to bring all these different UN agencies and programs together and work together. And in some cases, it does work. I'm more optimistic now than I was a few years ago. But we should, maybe that's another message for the conference. We want UN agencies to work together, and if necessary, have their governments change their mandates to make it possible, and not see each other as competition, because then we're going to kill the world. Thank you.
Wow, I'm not sure if we can answer or we can be thankful for the intervention. Maybe if I understand the lady from Congo, she want us to welcome her to the network. Please, you can be our champion from now on. You follow the network, and then you can promote it from your part of the world. So it's not an inclusive, but it's a group of women water diplomats and male champions. So please welcome. Now I need guidance. No. Yes, that's the guidance I was trying to hope, because otherwise I will get into your table discussion. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank the members. I think you listened well, you intervened very well. And as we go through the UN Water Conference, we cannot not have a big message on water for cooperation at any of our level that we have. I think Finland and Zambia are co-hosting or co-chairing this ID, interactive dialogue. And I think the messages are very clear. We will, I think, at the end of this symposium, have some key messages or priority messages that we want to take further into this interactive dialogue. So, and they are very much linkages with others. We see that it's also linked to the idea. I don't know if it's number 4 on the one that talks to climate change, but you cannot have water without cooperation, if I may put it like that. I'm being very biased, but thank you very much. And we conclude and we go to the table discussion.